All right, beautiful humans, welcome back to another episode of Naked Sunday. I am your host, Caleb Nelson, and I have the Enlifted one, Mr. Mark England, on the podcast today. I've never opened one like that.
I've
There
never
we
been
go.
introduced like that.
I feel like that should be like from like a Star Wars thing, the Enlifted one or something like that. I don't know. Super excited for today's episode. I'm so grateful to have you on here. I've heard nothing but great things. I want to get more into all that today, but thank you for being a guest here with me today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
I love it. So one of the things I like to do with aside from the fact that I just told you I really have no structure to this, I do have like one thing. I like to start all my episodes off with why I appreciate my guest, simply because I think that this idea of sharing our appreciation, our love for others is a great place to start on the whole thing called world peace. So to
Cool.
that effect, the brief things I know about you or have heard, and I'm again very excited to learn more about one, the people that I have heard great things from. I think they're phenomenal people. They're very heart centered. They're out to do great things for other people, especially through the health and wellness space, which is a very deep and profound gift. I think not only just for the immediate impact of like the person in front of you, but also for generations to come. So I hear that. And I love that you're using language as a medium to one of probably the many things that you're using as a medium to elicit change. And I think when I hear the word language, I hear communication, but I more deeply hear the word relationship. And in a world right now where most things are very surface level and it's very transactional, to go deep with others and create a medium for people to actually build something meaningful, a meaningful connection, that's really inspiring to me, and all the more reason why I got super hyped to have a conversation with you today. So thank you for just being you. And like I said before, I'm just grateful to have you here with me and sharing some time and some knowledge.
My pleasure, Caleb. Yeah, the relationships, connection, communication. It's a big one. A big one. The through line's the breath. We'll
Mm.
get into that because we're known as the language people. We might as well be known as the language and the breeding people.
Mm.
And push comes to shove, it's about the breath.
Mm.
It's about the breath.
Oof. I love that. I struggled realizing how simple that is, but how difficult connecting to the breath is. People get all like the yogic breathing and the woo woo thing around that. But once you actually start to see some of the practicality that it elicits and actually how difficult it is to connect to something so simple, it can blow your mind. So yeah, that's going to be a fun bit to get into. Let's get into it then. So
Let's do it.
you know yourself better than I. Please, for those who are listening, can you just share, Mark, who are you?
Right now, I am the head coach. I'm co-founder and head coach of Enlifted, and yeah, we certify coaches. Predominantly, the conversation starts with how to unlock the victim mentality, how to dismantle that thing, because that's where most people book in. That's where most people start, or that's where most coaches meet their clients. I'll say it like that. Very rarely does someone book in with a coach when the sun's out. Okay, you're gonna meet your client in the stuck, in the struggle. They got a problem. They need some help, and there's a story connected to those stuck parts of their life, and that story is going to have language patterns to it. It's going to have language patterns to it. There's going to be stress responses in context to those language patterns and story patterns, and if we can go ahead and get this on the table, the definition of the victim mentality. I've recited this more times than I can count. I'll do it twice. I'll do it once slow, and then I'll speed it up and make some points about it, and then I'll come back and fill in some more of the details about who I am right now. If you got a pen, ladies and gentlemen, write this down, because most people have never heard the definition of the victim mentality. And more rare still, people that have written it down. And we've been talking about the victim mentality by definition in detail with practical advice of how to slow that thing down, turn the volume down on it, dismantle it, choose your words, for 15 years now. And I've seen, like I said, I've recited this thing more times than I can count, and I've seen more light bulbs go off in you can see that little thing go, when people hear it, when people write it down, it makes some sense. Because guess what, folks? There's a game to be played. The victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person tends to regard himself or herself as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. The victim mentality depends on a habitual thought process and attributions. I took a little bit out of the middle. That's the verbatim definition of the victim mentality. Now I'm going to speed it up and make some points. The victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person it's a tendency. They tend to regard themselves as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. The victim mentality depends, as in it has to have a habitual thought process and attributions. Habitual accurately implies duration and addiction. So if that second sentence, spot on. So if there's a habitual thought process, also known as way words are combined, language patterns. If there are language patterns that the victim mentality has to have, then what are the words? That's what we specialize in. We've done a good job. I'll give ourselves some credit on demystifying the conversation about the victim mentality and identity, and also gamifying it, making it fun, making it easy to understand. Okay, literally language games, so people can have an experience, which a large part of that comes down to slowing down the storytelling process, so someone can have. And I'm happy to play some language games on this on the show.
Please do.
When people have an experience of taking out quite often just one word, and the picture changes, as in their imagination shifts, what they're seeing in their mind's eye, and their feelings and emotions change. As the old saying goes, she who feels it knows it. And so I've been researching, coaching, and presenting on the language patterns of the victim mentality. And there's other things too. It's all under story. The whole thing's story. Because guess what? We're telling ourselves a story. We're telling ourselves a story to ourselves about ourselves. That's our definition of mindset. The story we tell ourselves to ourselves. Mindset's talked about a lot. Great. Let's keep doing it. And most of the time, almost exclusively, it's held in this big picture conversation, this thing we know we need to get better at. And there's that confident person over there. That looks fun. I'm over here. Whoops, would have been nice. When we add in what words to use less of and why, if you want to feel better and unlock your breath and stay focused on the things that are important to you, and what words to use more of and why, if you want to feel better and unlock your breath and stay focused on the things that are important to you, then mindset becomes practical, as in I can practice thinking, speaking, and writing in different ways. And that's what, so we talk about language a lot. Let's get this on the table too. When I say language, I'm talking about our internal dialogue and our external dialogue. What we think, what we say, and what we write. And our language influences four main aspects of our experience of ourselves. Now again, this is our way of telling the story about story and identity, and we not only do I enjoy punctuality, so do you. I enjoy simplicity. I'm known as Dr. Simple over here.
Yes.
Our language, internal dialogue, it influences four main aspects of our experience of ourselves. Like I said, our imagination, our feelings and emotions, our posture and our breathing.
Mm.
And when we make some seemingly minor adjustments to our everyday ordinary language, then we can make adjustments in those things, and yeah, have a better, tell ourselves a better story to ourselves about ourselves. Stuff you didn't learn in 11th grade English class. Because most people's language, this is an education issue, man. This is not, has nothing to do with intelligence or deserving, whatever that word is. It's simply an education issue. Most people's education about their language comes down to spelling, grammar, and definitions. Now, a little bit more about me. How did I get into this?
Mm.
Train wrecking myself in a foreign country back in the day, and turning and entrenching a highly inflamed victim mentality. So
Ooh.
I wrestled in high school. I got into MMA in college, thought I was a tough guy. I had a handful of amateur MMA fights in college, won a couple of state kickboxing championships, and I decided to move over to Thailand in 2002. And the plan was to be over there for a year and then come back and go pro. Guess what? That didn't happen. I had 6 months over there, 6 months after I moved, which is a big deal for me. I'd only had my passport for 2 years. And I mean, this was way before, like, it was early days on the internet. So it was like, there wasn't, these travel blogs and stuff like that. Half the people I told I was moving to Thailand, my grandparents thought I was in Taiwan for the first 3 years. Yeah. I stayed over there for 10. I was over there in Thailand
Wow.
for a decade. I know it still sounds weird to say.
Holy
Um,
smokes, man.
yeah, that's yeah. And part of it is because so 6 months in, I'm having my second knee surgery. And the doctor said, your career as a fighter is, this is exactly what he said. Your career as a fighter is over. You could become a very good swimmer. Wow. Sounds fun. Doing laps next to granny at the pool. That's exactly what I had in mind. 26 years old and, like, a little, and so I took that experience, that scenario, and I used it as the final piece of damning evidence in a case that I was secretly making against myself,
Mm.
that I wasn't good enough. That was a large part of the driving factor of me getting into the fight game. And I was afraid I wasn't good enough. It's called a telephobia. Everybody write that down. A
Mm.
telephobia, and look it up. It's the fear of not being good enough. And 95% of people's stuff boils down to that. Fun little one-liner. I was afraid I wasn't good enough. I was afraid there was something wrong with me. Didn't know what it was. Just had this fear, and I was doomed to fail. And I was like, here's the proof, bro. And I ended up not laughing for an entire year. Moved over there with my girlfriend from college, best looking girl in school, man. She was cool too, really cool. And I turned into a different person. I became a very unfun. I didn't laugh for a year. I very likely didn't smile authentically,
Wow.
and eventually I got tired of that version of me. Thank God. I know I'm on a rant, and
It's okay. I'm enjoying the hell out of it, man.
cool, man. Um, thank God I had the wisdom to ask myself the question: are you going to be complaining about this when you're 55? Like,
Mm.
are you going to do that, really, bro? Because if you do, then you really are that loser. Because I saw that version of me, and I'm like, I'll take anything but that. And I was, and like I said, I decided to stay over there because I'm not going back to my old life and not be that fighter. I'd rather stay over here, stranger in a strange land, and see what happens. I'm just not going home. I'm not going home. So I stayed over there, and fortunately, fatefully, so I was an elementary school sports teacher at an international school, great gig, for 5 years. And that was the first 5. And then I started coaching the second 5. Anyway, that first 5, my vice principal, they're the words, vice principal came back from this spa, this cleansing resort down in Koh Samui, the island of, it was an island in the Gulf of Thailand. And he goes, "Hey man, I just came back from this, I did a cleanse down there, this 7-day cleanse. I think you'd really like it. There's some interesting people down there. They're doing it's, I feel better." And he gave me a book that the cleanse protocol was based off of, and they were talking about acupuncture and meridian lines, and I'd had some acupuncture in college. I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense to me. I'll give it a try. So I go down there, Caleb, and I pay to not eat for 7 days. Great gig. Here, give us a bunch of money, and we're going to give you a handful of pills and a coconut, and you're going to like it. Actually, I did. There's a lot of
you're
cool
speaking
people
my
down
language
there.
there, man. I'm into the bit. I've done a few 7-day water fasts, so I'm here for it.
Oh, that's legit. Yeah. Water fasting. That's I've heard I haven't done that.
I mean, if you want to do one together, I'm here for it. I close the year. The past 3 years, I've been closing the year, the last 7 days with that. It's been quite profound to turn the year while everybody's kind of, the holiday buzz, and you're there like dialing in. And it's, anyway, I digress.
Yeah, that's a big deal. My buddy from college, he started doing that 7-8 years ago. He woke up with a hangover one January 1st, and he just started drinking water. And he kept going for 7 days, and it reset stuff. Like, you could see it. And he's turned that into his tradition.
Wow.
Yeah, that establishes a very profound rhythm. And actually, that's the only kind of fasting there is. If it's not water fast, I'm sure you know this. If it's not water fasting, it's a cleanse. So they were doing these cleanses. It was based on Dr. Richard Anderson's Arise and Shine program, which was popular back in the day. This is like the early 2000s. And anyway, I went down there and had a better time than I thought. And I came back feeling a little bit better. And I kept going back. It's like I can participate differently this way. So the third time I'm down there, we're
participate like in life, or just like in the event?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I can participate differently in my life. And we're tying this back into the words, because that's the only thing. I'm a one-trick pony, dude. It's the only thing I talk about.
It's a damn good trick, brother.
I like it. And you know what? Apparently
some other people do too.
Apparently some other people do too. This is my 316th podcast, and it's our community. We got some coaches. The third time I went down there was a guy there giving a talk on emotional detoxification. And me, and all my wisdom, I snickered at it. I'm like, emotional detoxification. And I went. And guess what he talked about? This gentleman ended up becoming my first mentor in this work. He talked about language. He talked about story, identity. He talked about breathing. And then he asked, is anybody hung up on a story? Is anybody stuck with a story? And this woman just shot her hand right up. And the story, it was a stinger. It was a bad breakup. Like we can all, here's a short story. Her and her friends get a house down at the beach for beach week. Her boyfriend and all his friends get a house down at the beach for beach week, right next door. Add alcohol, press play. He hooks up with her best friend in front of everybody one night, and then dumps her in front of everybody the next night. Can we all say ouchie on 3? Right? And oh, dude, yeah. Insult to injury. And so she told the story. She told it 3 times. First time, he let her go all the way through. and just let her tell it. And at the end, she's angry and crying. The second time through, he made some adjustments, just a few, to the words, and her emotional status changed. She's now sad, no tears. Third time through, I mean, this guy clocked it from the start, because guess what? There's language patterns to the stories of ouch and pain and sting and woe, folks. And he stopped her on the Lord of the Rings sentence, the one that held that ruled over the entire story. And if you got your pens, write this down. Here's the sentence. He did that to me. He did that to me. And he had her 3 times. So everybody's staring at the same configuration of words, the same spell. Webster's definition of a spell, not mine. Webster's definition of a spell is a word or a combination of words of great influence. Trust me, I was there. This combination of words was greatly influencing this young woman. She hadn't had a relationship in 4 years. She's just chewing on this thing, right? Taking it personal every time she thinks about it, which she said was damn near daily occurrence. And he changed one word. He said, he did that to me. At the end, take out that last word, take out the me, and put in himself. And it was like lightning struck this woman. It was such a radical departure from the story she was telling herself. Her saying it was really clunky, and it went up at the end. It's called uptalk. Okay, it's when you turn a sentence into a question. Okay, he did that to himself. Goes up at the end, and then you see it catch. Well, you actually see the breath release first. He did do that to himself, and then she's not even there. She's just looking all over the place in her imagination, because her reticular activating system shifted gears majorly, and she started giving examples of him losing friends, and like how things just got worse for this guy, and because what she did is she took herself out of the picture. She took herself out of the picture with her words, and now his actions are about him. Look at the words. He did that to me. There's a he at the beginning. There's a me at the end. That means he's in the picture in my imagination, and so am I. I'm on the receiving end. I've got to wait for him to change before I can feel better. Don't hold your breath, even though you're holding your breath, because you're in a stress response. And then finally, she just walked herself right out. She goes, that was never going to work out anyway. That guy was actually really weird. And I'm looking at that. That was in 2003. And I go, that's not my story, but that's my story. Because I had a he shouldn't have kicked me that hard. We were just warming up story. And then he paired us up to work on some stuff. And I was paired up with this woman, and she was telling me about something, and I was doing my best to do what he told us to do. And then it came time to switch. So now she's listening to me. And I looked at her and I said, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I'm not talking to you about shit, or anybody for that matter. I was just so mad and guarded, but I did take some action. I got up straight and went straight to the internet cafe and printed out the 85-page manual on how to do this stuff on yourself. And I went back to my bungalow and I started digging into stories. I wasn't going to talk to anybody about it, but I'm going in there. And 4 years later, January 17th, 2007, I go back down. I mean, I'd gone down back to that spa so many times. I'd become friends with everybody. And 2007, January 17th, I put my flyer up at the spa, joined the coaches practitioners roster, and that was the day I went pro 15 years ago.
Never look back.
No, man. No, I just something I contemplate this uh uh sometimes, Caleb. I have had an it makes more sense now,
Hmm.
a very irrational, unexplainable drive when it comes to doing this stuff.
Hmm.
Like cutting vacations short to go I wanted, and I knew the path was experience. I wanted to get good at this. I wanted to get really good at this. And like I said, it was an um, irrational drive. And yeah, I've been somewhere between full time and overtime the whole time since. And like I said, now it makes sense. I had my first month off. I walked away from this is a big deal. I walked away from my desk for the month of October and partied with the coaches here at the lake house and did the very least amount of work that I could do. And that was the first time that month, because we restructured how we're delivering the certifications. That was the first time I haven't been in like teaching class, multiple certifications overlapping, getting people across the finish line for the past 3 years and 7 months.
Wow.
So yeah, I've been school's in, so yeah, I'm dude with a little bit of an obsession.
I had a coach once. She shared this quote with me: "When you're ready to learn, start to teach." I don't know why that came to mind, but I guess a follow-up question as you went on this 15-year overtime, full-time
Tirade.
tirade.
It was a tirade. I went on a warpath. Like I could tell all kinds of weird stories of, yeah, anyway.
Well, I guess the simple question I could pull from that is, of the past 15 years, what's the number one thing you learned from your path teaching this?
Get your breath low and slow and keep it there while
Mm.
you're coaching.
Mm.
That's the thing. That's the number one thing. Um, and there's many ways to skin a cat. And um, when we go into someone's story with the Enlifted method, we're asking some potent questions. As in, the approach is put the gorilla on the table. So someone starts talking about something that's going on in their current life, in their adult life, and it's usually they talk about something in a global, general, thematic way, which brings up feelings and emotions. Very naturally, you want that. Those feelings and emotions are clues. And then we start asking some, I mean, legit questions, simple shit. When was the first time you felt that feeling of not being good enough? When was the first time you felt that feeling of rejection? When was the first time you felt that feeling of disappointment? And some people have crazy stories, and a lot of times when they make the connection to this thing that's been in my chest every time, it's like it's this thing that just sits there. Oh, that reminds me of when my dad punched my mom in the face and walked out the door never to be seen again. And I was 7, and then my sister's 5, staring at this whole thing. And that's when I took on the idea that I've got to protect my mother for everything, and now I take responsibility for anything that goes wrong in anybody else's life. And it's like this, like in 5 minutes you can be in stories like that. It's super whether it's if someone's coaching someone, if someone's helping someone change their mindset, there's going to be emotions and feelings involved. Get your breath low and slow and keep it there so you don't trauma bond with your clients, because most people are very uncomfortable with other people's emotions and feelings. So we have a conversation about something and you get emotional and I don't like that and I'm like that, and now both of our breath is trapped in our chest, and it's called amygdala hijack. So if I'm a coach and the story's so intense that and it's usually an unconscious competency, It's just a natural, it's a reaction. It's a learned reaction. Like I'm all locked up too. Amygdala hijack, look that up. I now lose access to my coaching tools. When someone's breathing is in their chest, they're in a stress response, their ability to listen goes way down. Their access to their creative faculties, their training goes way down, and things get uncomfortable for everybody pretty quick. So what's the opposite of that? When the heat gets turned up in the kitchen, get your breath low and slow and keep it there. Okay. We have a saying in the Enlifted community: good breathing equals good coaching, because good breathing equals good listening, and good listening equals good coaching. So good breathing equals good coaching. Okay. Not only that, you will set a rhythm, and well, like I said, you'll have access to your coaching tools. That's the best. I didn't have that piece of the coaching puzzle for the first 3.5, 4 years of coaching. And yeah, I paid the price for that. So breathing.
You paid the price to learn, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably a lot easier to share those stories now. I got to imagine that I can only say like, hey, I'm hearing a lot of, I believe we're all each other's mirror in some way, and people show up in your life, right, kind of to show you what you need to see at certain moments. But there's a lot of parallels that I heard, and that the same way you were sharing about that one woman, you're like, that's not my story, but that's my story. And that was really, I think what you're talking about there. If you can't listen, you can't coach, but because the client in front of you is the one with all the information that you need to help guide them on that journey. And if you're freaking out, well, how they're not even going to feel safe enough to share, let alone do anything with any information that comes out of it. So just being good on you and chilling the fuck out, probably a good like life strategy in general, aside from coaching. I mean, I always think leading. I think great leadership is actually coaching. It's not a tell. And people don't need more information. They probably need, like as you were talking about, you need to take some information away, because the cloud and the what's the word, the conflation of feelings and fact is now clouding the next decision, and they're running into, well, hello, here's the wall of victim mentality. No wonder I just have to go back and play over this whole damn thing all over again every time, and oh, woe is me that comes with it. So I love but it's so simple. I think a lot of people look at it as just as dismissive, like, oh, just breathe. That's not hard when you're feeling threatened. When you're confronting potentially some of your own insecurities, if somebody's going to bring in that I was raped or I was beaten or I was, name
Which
your
they
thing,
will.
which they will.
1000%.
I think most, and I can speak to my own stuff, I was afraid to, like, do I have the capacity to sit in this room and hear what might come up? And I remembered it took basically facing somebody's life, like somebody else that I love, their life hanging in the balance for me. You go, life's too fucking short. Deal with your shit. Because if you're wasting your talent, and sitting in that room really does, man, it teaches you how to just be okay with people who are going to bring things to you, and they're looking to just have it normalized. And if you can just be calm, it gives them permission.
Dude, you nailed it.
Yeah, that really, I loved everything you just shared there.
1000%. Yeah. So fine. Okay, great. Let's talk about non-attachment. Okay. Being okay with someone else's not okayness. And can you demonstrate it? Can someone demonstrate it? Well, what do you mean? What's the demonstration of attachment? Tension and rigidity. If my breath is in my chest, I'm attached to something. Okay. What's the demonstration of non-attachment? It's breathing. Breathing low and slow, parasympathetic nervous system response. This is all rocket science. I'm kidding. It's not. Relaxed. You're relaxed. They go stiff. They go tight. They go emotional. You relax into it. And that dynamic is quite magic. And to dovetail off something that you said a little bit ago, 2 minutes ago, about people don't need more information. Okay. They actually need less. Okay. That's my second piece of advice.
Mm.
Y'all get your head around this and you got something. Answers push, questions pull.
Mm.
Answers push, questions pull. I'll put a great questions coach up against a great answers coach all day, every day. I mean, that's where I started. I thought I had to know everything about everything and be smarter than all my clients. I was a 1-800 I have all the right answers hotline coach. And that shit sucked. Okay.
I've never heard somebody say that. That is so fire. That needs to become a shirt, brother. Oh my God. That'll make millions.
Dude, it was the worst. And it set up this weird dynamic to begin, like, it just from the start that it's jacked up. And the third thing, so it's get your breath low and slow and keep it there. Ask a bunch of good questions and have your clients write stuff down. So you and your client are looking at the same configuration of words. Okay. There's something magic when, and very organizing and therapeutic when the story gets taken from in the head to on paper. Inside the head, and most people are story hoarders. Let me close that real quick. Most people are story hoarders. And I understand why. They keep the stories of ouch and pain and sting and woe, that's a leaf blower, in their head. Stories kept in the head are seemingly infinite. Where does it start? Where does it stop? There's the worst part again, ouch. The story's in me. I'm in the story. It's subjective. It's still personal. Super hard to coach somebody through that in comparison to once the story is written down. Once a story is written down, and I'm talking about titling a specific memory and writing it out conversationally. Conversational English, err on the side of more detail than less. This is not a general, write however you feel about the stuff that, generally speaking, happened back then. No, specific events written out, punctuation, full sentences, like it's going in a book. Okay. Once the stories are written down in that way, they're now finite. Obviously, there's the first word, there's the last word. You and your client, and there's a variety of ways you can do this. If you're in the same room and you have a piece of paper, there it is. If you're coaching virtually, you can do this off Google Docs. Give your client a Google Doc. Get them to write things down on the Google Doc. Get on a Zoom call, hit share screen. They're on the Google Doc. You're on the Google Doc at the same time. You can both write on that document. It's a phenomenal way to curate your client's stories and get them out of these loops. And then you can focus on the words. It's very easy to get down to, in the instance of that woman with the bad breakup session story, he did that to me. You can get down to these linchpin sentences and break those spells by definition. Breaking spells, casting spells. That's another way to talk about coaching accurately. I go on rants and tangents, dude. That's like,
brother, that's all good. I am known to do them. My wife can attest to this. She doesn't listen to the podcast, but I'm going to make her listen to this one of all of them, mostly because I'm going to say I didn't talk much. So she gets the rough draft of my ongoing podcast all day long. So, honey, I love you if you're listening, or when you're listening. Let's change that. We're gonna subtly, gently nudge that along. She's a teacher, so I think everything you're talking about here would be heavily powerful for that. And she wants to be admin, and I think generational impact when we start talking about policy affecting and then like the way it's communicated.
What does she teach?
She teaches 5th grade right now, and she's also an adjunct professor, at least at the time of this recording. It's a methods course. It's a master's level course she teaches as well. I am heavily biased, but I'm also like brutally, like, I have a real problem with nepotism. I've been very brutal. She actually was like a protege underneath me at my gym when I had my physical gym, and I was very hard on her sometimes just a straight up asshole. Um, and my friend can definitely attest to this, but I will say this: I've never watched. She developed the teens and the kids programs that we had, but I've never watched somebody. She has this gift, just an unfathomable gift to just take any child, and we talked about that safety, that control. She doesn't see the anger and the lashing out. She's like, oh, that's just a kid who didn't eat today or who didn't sleep because, oh yeah, mom and dad, like they're on drugs or they're going through. She just sees, she cuts through all the bullshit real fast and she's like, oh, this is the real thing. What they really want right now is a hug. She has that, and I've never seen the capacity on this level. So all the more reason why I'm going to say, honey, use this subtle tool. This is the language piece that can really craft. How do you allow this kid to take it home? How do you let this kid break some of these beliefs now while they're still moldable, in a way where they can feel more empowered within themselves and lifted in a way? And I think there's a lot, especially in the, I have my issues with the current school system, the education system, because it's very,
Likewise.
this I see as very deep and profound for decades and generations to come.
I'll send you all over some gift courses. Core language
Absolutely.
upgrade, the thing that started it all off. Super easy to take. And I got a place in my heart for teachers when people ask. It took me a while to think about this, because I most of the time I would go to that story that I shared about the woman. He did that to me.
Yeah.
You know, when did you start with the words? And then once I rewound the tape a little bit, um, when I started teaching,
Mm.
because if someone can take 20 nuclear level excited second graders over to the pool. So you start them at point A, you get them at the clock's running, get them over to the pool across campus, dressed out in the pool, swim the lesson. Everybody survives free swim, get them out of the pool, dressed out. Everybody has all their stuff, second graders, and get them back over to where they're supposed to be on the clock at that. You got to be good with your words. You got to be simple and repetitive. Show me someone who's simple and repetitive with their language, and I'll show you someone who's going to get it done.
Well, I want to double down on this. This is actually taking it back to the beginning when you started speaking. When you brought up that you were teaching at the sports academy, that was meaningful to me because you were also sharing. There's a few levels in there actually. So you talked about that. You talked about the 4 different things it impacts, and there's one other thing. It'll come to my mind, but it's through this lens of taking away the extra information. Most people, I don't think, know this, but most political speeches are actually written, I think, at a 4th grade, 5th grade level. Why? Because the average reading age is that level. We could look at it one of 2 ways. Oh, we're all idiots, or perhaps we need to go back to childlike simplicity, because if you can speak that complex thought into very simple language that is easily digestible and in a way that somebody can take that over, I think it's powerful. And this is the other layer that it took on. It was about play.
Mm.
Kids have very direct, powerful, like from the mouths of babe kind of stuff. They just say it straight. That's before they take on the identity of the victim or the victor or the savior or any one of those things, or the villain. That's before all the bullshit. They didn't add all this intellectual, I know more words than you and I know how to dress this thing up and all that. This is purely where I'm at. I love you, I hate you, I'm sad, I'm upset, I have this feeling, here it is, and then we move on. It's this over intellectualization and this adult thing where we get rigid, as you had mentioned. We try to control the narrative because we can't stay non-attached. It's like, oh, that's a thing that happened. Cool. What did I learn? And I think when you talk about like your teaching, it's you start looking back at all the bad things it happened for me, because now I'm actually in a position to say, got it, kid, like you're going through a tough time, I understand, but you can get through this. It does not have to be the death sentence for you for the rest of your life. You don't have to choose to live in misery for the rest of your life. You don't have to barf this pain onto everybody in your life. You don't have to.
Barf.
Yeah. I mean, one of the great things I learned in coaching was like, say a little raunchy sometimes, because people
Oh
remember
yeah,
that shit.
I'm a big fan.
Oh yeah, especially like a little bit like dirty. Like you ever especially talked about like hump the bar or something like that. Just like some little things like that.
People,
Everybody goes, oh, I get it. we tap back into the primal, and it gets very simple.
I mean, does anybody like sterile? Like totally like nah, man, I'm a big fan of an F-bomb, a well-placed F-bomb. Yeah, you know.
There was one thing. Do you know who Greg Amundsen is?
Who's that? No.
So I owned a CrossFit affiliate I was an affiliate for however many years, I can't remember, 5 or 7 years. And he came and did a cert at my first location. It was all about goal setting. And he told this story about, he was considered one of the original fire breathers. It's kind of a CrossFit thing. We were talking about CrossFit earlier. Excuse me. And he told this story, was teaching a cert to a bunch of, it was at a military base. And he shared this story where they're the final workout. They're all exhausted. People are just flattened, and they have this one final thing to do. And they're all just collapsed on the ground. They have to get up, and they're supposed to sprint across this field. And the sergeant or the leader, I can't remember exactly what the title was for that guy's position. He gets up, pulls his shoulders back, takes a nice deep breath, and then proceeds to charge across the field. And it inspires. Amundsen looks at and watches every other person in the platoon or whatever it was look to this and follow suit and do the exact same thing. And it inspired this quite powerful transformation and this completion of the effort, the endeavor, where moments ago it looked completely hopeless, which is probably a great metaphor for life. And he asked the guy afterwards, so what'd you do? The guy goes, I just put my body in a place my mind could follow. So when you talked about the language to me, where it was about controlling the narrative, lowering the anxiety, but it also affects posture,
Majorly.
ability to breathe. You regain your intellectual capacities and faculties about you. You make better decisions. You realize you can complete the task. You realize and just go there or do this thing or write whatever. I'm bringing this up because I hope to share what was really deeply impactful to me, is that a very small thought bomb around shifting your mindset. It's the idea of inception. I'm a big movie buff, so that one's a good one for me. Has so many transformative experiences in all aspects of your life, including practical physical transformation. Just I stand up a little straighter. Maybe I don't feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders.
Good words.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's so simple, but of course that doesn't mean it's easy, because you got to sit in sometimes terrifying room and deal with judgment and fear and anxieties and rejection and whatever things that are the other stories that we're telling ourselves about what this person across from me is going to feel about what I'm about to say or ask. But they're probably just feeling lonely as shit, and they just want somebody to give a damn for a minute, which lends to what you just said, as opposed to the 1-8 best t-shirt ever, 1-800 I know it all service. They want to just talk it out and have somebody listen and give a damn for 0.5 seconds.
It's a lot easier to care when we're breathing well. It's hard to care when we're breathing like shit, and most people are breathing like shit. And to go back to that point about language influencing our posture, you nailed some of the words. I've got the weight of we have all talked ourselves into a bad mood. Okay. We've all talked ourselves into a bad mood and stayed there. How does that influence posture? Starts to go like this. Look at the word. You just use some of them. The weight of the world is on my shoulders. I'm down in the dumps. I'm depressed. Depression. D-E, press, I, on. That's, if you chop up depression, that's what you get. Downward pressure on me. It's spooky. We've all talked ourselves into a good mood. And if we do that and stay there, then things are looking up. Okay, I'm getting ahead. Our language places us psychogeographically speaking in our imagination, and then that translates to our physical body and works for us and works against us. Most people's language is working against them. Most people's language, due to a lack of education about how to use it, tricks them into being innocent bystanders in their life. That place sucks. Tricks them into being spectators in the stands. Everybody write this sentence down. How can I ever get over this? Let's play the one word game. And this is a very easy and reliable language game to turn around and share with someone. And while we're talking about that, which is also known as teaching, 30, 50, 80. We remember 30% of what we hear, 50% of what we write, 80% of what we teach. So when you write stuff down, you get an extra 20% return on investment. You turn around and explain this stuff to someone. Now you're in the 80%. Okay. How can I ever get over this? Caleb, when I say that, you hear me say that, what kind of feeling does it create?
Burdensome. It feels
Burdensome.
exhausting. It feels like there's a wall in front of me that I'm looking up at. I'm like, I'm never going to get over it. It feels a mountain is the perfect word. Yeah.
Everybody take your pens, your magic wands, and scratch out the word ever. We just take one word out. So how can I ever get over this to how can I get over this? For most people, they have a visceral, they have a feeling response to that. So how can I ever get over this? Yes, fine. It's got a question mark at the end. And that one word ever, which is known as it's a dramatic. Okay. It spikes the volume on the drama. And I say it somewhere along the lines of, how can I ever get over this? It's not a question anymore. It's a statement of I'm screwed. And it's called a presupposition if you want to get techie about it. It presupposes there's no way out of this. Like you just said, there's a big wall. And since there's no way out, the reticular activating system, which I'm happy to talk about here in a second, it's an important part of this conversation, goes, well, fine. If there's no way out, then I'm not going to look for a way out. This is your lot, and hello, resignation. And we take out that one word, how can I get over this? And the drama comes down, and we've got way more of an actual question, because it presupposes, how can I get over this? It presupposes that I can get over this. And so the RAS goes, reticular activating system goes, okay, fine. If there's a way out, I'm going to start looking for solutions. You ever heard of Carol Dweck?
No.
Fixed mindset versus growth mindset. She's famous in some circles. She put that out: fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And if you've got a fixed mindset, that means you got a fixed language. If you've got a growth mindset, that means you've got a growth language. So the definition of identity is the fact, Webster's current definition of identity, the fact of being who or what a person is. The fact, it's factual. I'm not good enough. That's a fact. Nobody ever listens to me, not ever once. That's a fact. No, nothing ever works out for me is not on the periodic table of elements. Okay. These most people, they treat these opinions, these ideas, belief systems, if you want to give them more credit than they deserve, as fact. And let's look at, I am angry. I am angry. That's what does that lead to? Let's put some more words in there. I am currently angry. Put one word in there. usually loosens up a little bit. Put the word practicing in there. I'm currently practicing being angry. Now it takes it from a label of something that I just am is to something that I'm participating in doing. Something I'm participating in being. We're participating in the story that we tell ourselves to ourselves. And our language is driving a lot of that. And there's a lot of social psychological science, social sciences that corroborate this. Look up the reticular activating system. So my car got stolen in 2017. I'm being me. I like being punctual, as we talked about before. We both showed up right at 10. That was really cool.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So I'm giving a presentation on words and one trick pony. And I'm early. I walk out the door, rehearsing, reviewing in my head, and I walk over to where I parked my car the night before, and it's gone. And it took me a second to connect those dots. I'm just staring at this empty space that used to be my whip, as the kids say these days. And I called the cops and I said, help. They said, hold on, buddy, we're coming. And then I called my dad. And I said, Dad, it's a true story. Somebody stole my car. I've got stuff to do. I need the farm truck. So I go out to the farm and I pick up one of my father's prized possessions, a 1985 Ford F-150, 2 tones of brown. We call it brown and browner. He bought it mint off the showroom floor. It sits out there under a canopy at the farm. It's still, I drive brown and browner into Richmond, and in 24 hours, I start seeing 1985-ish Ford F-150s all over the place. I saw 3 in 2 city blocks. And most people have had that experience. They buy a car and they start seeing that car all over the place. They go, where the hell are these cars coming from? They've been there the whole time. Okay. Have you ever had that experience?
All the time.
What car? What vehicle?
Most recently, we looked at like a Ford Bronco, and my wife started pointing it out everywhere. We didn't get it, but she's like, I see it here and I see it there. And how does everybody have them now? So yeah,
Like the new Broncos?
The new ones. Yeah.
Those are nice, dude. They're really cool looking too.
Yeah.
That's the reticular activating system. Once something gets programmed as important, also known as whatever we focus on, it goes on a search and edit mission. Okay. It goes to find more of these things, okay, and edit out anything that's not that. So let me guess, while you were observing more and more Broncos, you were observing less Volkswagen Beetles.
Well, I couldn't tell you because I wasn't paying attention, but now that I think about it.
Did you see any? It's like when I was picking out more and more trucks, I didn't see any white vans or blue Oldsmobiles because it wasn't the thing that I was looking for. The most famous study that I know of about this thing, it's called the Invisible Gorilla. And you can still see the original video on YouTube. They took 7 college kids. This is in the late 90s. Dressed 3 of them up in white, 3 of them up in black, and 1 in a gorilla costume. They gave the white team 2 basketballs and the black team 2 basketballs. And the white team was passing the balls back and forth to them, and the black team was passing the basketballs back and forth to them. And that was 1 minute. It was the 1 minute they filmed this. 30 seconds in, that 7th student in the gorilla costume walks into the middle of all of that, turns and looks at the camera, beats his chest, and walks out. They take that 1 minute video and show it to tens of thousands of people. They wrote a book about it. Guess what? It's called The Invisible Gorilla. And they directed their attention, Stage magicians know about this. People that write the news know about this. They asked them, count how many times the white team passed the basketball back and forth. We're going to quiz you at the end. And they did. And they gave their answers. And then they asked them, oh, by the way, did you happen to see the gorilla? 50% of people edited out something so seemingly obvious as a gorilla because they weren't looking for it. And when you go back and look at it, you're like, how could anyone in their right mind miss that? So the question is, does the reticular activating system only respond to 1985-ish Ford F-150s, 2022 Broncos, and college students in gorilla costumes? Or is our language influencing our reticular activating system, which is a major component in how we see things, how we see ourselves? I got 2 stories for you about
Please share. Loving them.
A tale of 2 stories, folks. I tell these stories often because they highlight many things. Woman comes in, sits down. She was very self-aware. And she said, I'm struggling in my marriage. My husband thinks I'm attractive. I refuse to believe him. I know where it's coming from. I just don't know what to do about it. Oh, do tell. She's 10 years old. She walks into, her family goes to her grandparents for Christmas. They pull up in the driveway. They walk in the back door. Her great aunt is standing right there and leans down and goes, "My, you have a big nose, just like me." Thanks. 10-year-old little girl, stress response, attachment, runs into the bathroom. What do you think the first thing that she looked at was when she got in front of the mirror? Right at her nose, which is obviously, of course, no bigger physically than it was 5 seconds ago. But now in her imagination, she's got a honker, which means she's ugly. And then the reticular activating system goes, and it's totally impartial. It goes, oh, if you're ugly, cool. I'm going to go on a search mission for all the other flaws, point them out to you more than once. And I'm going to edit out anything that's not that. So you can see how this would play out. Your husband's like, damn, baby, you look good. She's like, you don't really mean that. Think that's going to get in the way? That's a tale of a constrictive spell. A combination of words that creates tension, tightness, fixation on something, nearsightedness, stress response, breath trapped in the chest, heavy, dense energy. Okay, and then we walk around with that playing in the background, sometimes the foreground, and wonder why things are the way they are. 2014, this is the other side of the coin, because spells go both ways. Some are constrictive in nature, some are expansive in nature. They liberate the mental imagery, create levity in emotions and feelings, relaxation in the body, and unlock the breath. Sounds fun? It is. And so 2014, I give a presentation. This guy's sitting up a booth right next to me. He comes up afterwards and goes, "Man, that was great. You want to hear a story about all that?" Yeah, of course. And here's one of my F-bombs. This is exactly what he said.
Fire away.
Fire away. His grandfather, who was 12 years old, took him out in the backyard. I forget the guy's name. We'll just call him Johnny. Said, "Little Johnny, life's wild. There's going to be some ups and downs and twists and turns and zigs and zags. You're going to get some stuff right. You're going to get some stuff wrong. Just always remember to err on the side of being a badass motherfucker." And Grandpa dropped an F-bomb on him. And he said, my whole life changed in that moment. He said, I looked up. Remember, things are looking up. I saw myself in my imagination as capable and confident and going after stuff. And, I made all kinds of mistakes. But you know what? I go after what I want, and I like being me. I'm just thinking to myself, that's called winning the game. If you go after what you want, guess what? You get some stuff right. You're gonna get some stuff wrong. If you keep doing that, you're gonna learn. It's the only way it happens. And you're breathing well. Uh, it's really hard to be comfortable in your own skin with your breath trapped in your chest. And if you're not comfortable in your own skin, it's hard to enjoy being you. So if you enjoy being you and you've got some stuff that you're going after and you go for it from time to time, I mean, you're gonna have some great stories to tell.
Well, I have a story for you
What you got?
that parlays right into all of this, and it's going to impact my coaching simply because of everything you just said. So I don't know what you know about Naked Sunday, but I'll give you the 30-second
Great name.
overview. Appreciate that. Thank you. Naked Sunday is an actual habit that I did, brought my wife into it later on, where I sat butt ass naked on a Sunday, dealt with the shit in my head. There are some other like motivators before that, superficial, but sometimes these superficial motivators are the things that get you through the door. For much of my life, whether people knew it or not, I struggled with body image stuff. And a lot of my identity, as we're talking about the I am statements, was wrapped up in I look a certain way, whether it was good or bad, everything in between. But the conversation became what I did not know was a question of why do I love myself? And I didn't have an answer. And I struggle with this because I was looking down, mind you, I at the time still in the gym and I still do health coaching now, but I was about 40 pounds overweight and felt like a fraud, felt insecure, as we're talking about when you don't actually align with this narrative and story you've built up around your identity. Of course, you're going to feel anxiety, shame, guilt because you're not in alignment. And it took looking over at my wife and starting to change the thought around, well, she's with me, she loves me. What does she love about me? And it changed the language. Well, what was she looking for in me? As you said, well, you saw the Ford F-150s. You saw all the things because now you're looking at it. I had to start looking at my value beyond the flesh and blood. Now, beyond that, when I started to unravel that, when I looked at the behaviors, I realized, oh, these behaviors are not actually an identity in alignment with the identity of what I care about. I care about leadership. I care about loving myself. I'm not respecting, which is my number one core value, the vehicle that I have to do the things that I want to do in terms of helping others and being of service and caring of others. So what I think I'm going to change, what I am now doing on the spot, I'm deciding that's happening, is having people write down, what do you love about yourself? Simply so they can, I've had people stand up in a room and literally do well, why do you love yourself? And I've watched people just, I didn't realize that so many people have never even been asked. So they don't even have a moment to go, well, let me even start thinking about it. Me struggling with wanting closed loops is the other problem that like, I want you to have an answer now. And that was my own thing to deal with. But watching people struggle with it was more oh, we've opened the door now. And now you have a path to start to discover what do you love about yourself? Because now you've been asked. So the writing piece, I think I fundamentally believe, as you're saying this, is going to, when you can see why you love yourself on paper, these are some things you can start doubling down on those things. The other behaviors will start to change as well. It changed the nature of my marriage. It changed the nature of how I do my work. And oh, by the way, I lost 40 pounds and liked what I saw staring back at me in the mirror, both inside and out. So I wanted to share that just for a little scope of the craziness that is in Caleb Nelson's head. But also everything you said aligns with my own personal experiences and also what I've helped others with. Really beautiful to just say, hey, where are you putting your attention to? If you're going to pay attention to only your victimhood and your anger and all the times you've been on the short end of the stick, you're never going to see all the other things that have availed you to that now, because of your pains and your traumas or whatever, You now have a skill set that you had to work through that you can now support others. Oh, it was also equally a gift as much as it was a curse. So we're talking about spells. It can open both doors. It depends on which one you're going to walk through.
And you assisting them, giving them the language in the form of that question. Questions pull.
Mm.
What do you love about yourself? Let's take a moment. Contemplate it. Pull that information right out of them. Pull it out and get it on paper. Different work. Do something different. Get something different. Better questions create better stories.
Mm. And now that they're hardwired with it, as you're saying, now you have this new identity that you're going to walk around the world. If you're anything like me, if I feel like I'm going to be 1 minute late, my skin starts to crawl. Not realize I could probably just say, hey, running a couple minutes behind. I happen not to be prompt as I would like to be. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Most people are like, oh, thanks for letting me know. But not everybody thinks it's a massive affront to their persona and you're not respecting me and you're a piece of shit for not like, you don't value me. It's like, no, well, my dog just shit all over the house or my kid is sick half the time. And this is actually a story that's worth sharing. I put my bullshit aside on this one a long time ago. We had the 4:30 or 4 o'clock class time a lot, and there's a 87, the Northway right near us, and a lot of people are commute up it afterwards. And it's renowned for having just stupid accidents. And I don't speed at all. Like people make fun of me for being like, you're an old man. I don't care.
Still in the game.
Still in the game. I still got a chance to play. What changed for me was like, could I live with myself if somebody was frantically trying to get to this class because I was going to have a moment and make them feel like a piece of, or potentially make them feel like a piece of garbage because they're coming here to try to get better. The last thing they need is for me to guilt and shame them for now they're associating improvement with this is just a shitty experience and I have to go to somebody always that's going to make me feel like garbage to get better. That wasn't the philosophy. But what I wanted to say is, hey, how you doing? Everything okay at work? What happened? And then maybe that conversation, what I started to see with a couple people who would come in with this frantic energy all the time, they would just start adjusting their behaviors because there was something earlier in their day that was presetting them to not manage their time as well as they actually deep down really wanted to be more prompt and punctual with their time. They didn't have anybody help them take 4 seconds to walk through the thing and feel like, no, I got it. You got 3 kids. You're tired. Your husband was busy with this, and your boss is being an asshole all day too. Maybe you need somebody to show some grace and some kindness, ground his own breath and his own ego for 4 seconds, and make you feel like a human being. And 9 times out of 10, it was a very amicable resolution. And the thing I said that I cared about doing, helping them transform their body, magically happened without a lot less stress. Like, whoa, it doesn't have to be such a painful, arduous struggle if you allow for the detachment piece that I think you did, the uncoupling you talked about. And one of the things I'm reading it right now, and I plan on reading it again, is The Untethered Soul. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Michael Singer stuff. And it's like, are you your feelings? Are you what you feel, or are you the observer of all those things? And you get to that point, you're like, oh, you're fully detached. It's just a thing that's happening. You're going to choose how to interface with it. That's empowerment. And I know for myself lately, the more I do it, I just feel this. It's the breath thing. Oh man, this is great. And then magically cool things happen afterwards. The phone rings and somebody's like, yo, I want to work with you on this, or that podcast gets or whatever. Because all of a sudden I can see the opportunities there as opposed to, oh my God, that person's gonna call and want something from me that I can't deliver. I just wanted to touch base and have a conversation with somebody who they love and admire. Oh, that's a really terrible thing. That's the sarcasm for anybody who's picking up on that. But yeah. my soapbox rant over there. I'll take a pause for.
Dude, I'm good at giving them, and I'm good at listening too.
Dude, I love it. Well, I'm curious about this. Where's this vision going? So 15 years in, you said you had a month reprieve to perhaps rest, digest, whatever went down there. What do you see for the future of all of this?
I set a goal, which I'm 50-50 on, of certifying the first 1,000 coaches. We have 290 coaches. And let me back up. There's a better way to articulate that. We'll just go to the biggest picture. To unlock the breath of humanity.
Ooh.
I was listening to, who was talking about those? Something on YouTube. 10%. You get 10% of the population on board with something, and it will pull the other 90. 8.5 isn't enough. It was some Riesling study. I'm not getting it was some study that
I believe it's the law of diffusion of innovation or something like that. I'm playing around with some of that stuff. Yeah, I'm here for it.
Something like that. And to get there, so we have the key. We have the key to the entirety of, this is big talk, the key to the entirety of the collective victim mentality of humanity. And it was given to us thousands of years ago. The word abracadabra. When most people hear the word abracadabra, they immediately go to magic. There's usually a Steve Miller Band person somewhere in the conversation. And guess what? It's even cooler than that. Abracadabra is Aramaic. And it translates. Aramaic is an ancient language. It's one of the languages Jesus spoke, one of the 2 languages Jesus spoke. And the language the original Old Testament was written in. And it translates to, with my word, I create, or with my word, I influence. And the metaphysicians of the day, they would triangulate it and wear it around their neck to remind them of the power and the mechanism of the spoken word. Because they knew that if their language was working against them, whatever that they wanted to do was going to be harder than it needed to be. They also knew if they got their language working for them, especially in groups and teams, then they could go on to do quite unfathomable things. So we're we'll just say we got 80%. That's a low number. We got 85% of the language patterns in English that script the victim mentality. Okay. And we can take that premise, that principle, abracadabra, and apply it to any language on the planet. Okay. Because there's only so many ways I can piss myself off in Cantonese. You know, there's only so many. Here's another quote for you. There's only so many ways I can blame other people in French.
That's going in the teaser, man. Oh my God.
Yeah. And so if we work backwards, and it's very easy to do. We've got an app. It's in the app stores. They've been working on it for 2 years. The Enlifted app. That's going to scale this conversation massively. And so working back, let's unlock the breath of humanity and see what happens. Okay. And in order to do that, we got to make playing the victim uncool to get to the other 90%. All we need is 10% of the population that's like, fuck this. I'm done celebrate. It's the victim Olympics out there. Like, who's got the worst story? Who's the most down? That's major trauma bonding. People are getting their attention and their significance through being oppressed. Ayn Rand said it. Evil requires the sanction of a victim. And I think the universe is a feedback loop. Again, Dr. Simple over here. I'm an elementary school sports teacher with a couple of MMA fights. So know who you're listening to. I think the universe is a feedback loop. And in all its wisdom, if we've got 8 somewhat odd billion people on the planet, and most of them are running, Baskin Robbins 31 flavors of the victim mentality to the degree that they are, it's like, okay, here's all the control systems to show you that you're right. Because it's like the reticular activating system. Oh, that's what you want? That's what you're doing. Here it is. In all its levels of organization and glory. So the way out is in. The way forward is in. Otherwise, it's war.
I think the words that came to mind is, I think, the flip side to, we need to make victim mentality uncool, is what's the flip side? Because don't think about pink elephants. Don't think about pink elephants.
Yeah.
Think about pink elephants. The flip side is, how do you make love sexy? How do you make
Yeah.
responsible, unconditional love attractive? And that's hard because it's patience. It's the classic stuff. And what I thought about, the first thing that came to mind is, well, what happens when we unlock the breath of humanity? We all know how to play nice in the sandbox. And beneath all of this, what I didn't bring out, that was the final piece around play. Play is creativity. And you won't be able to play or create until you feel safe enough, and knowing who you are and feeling firmly grounded in responsible love. You're not going to create a world of love around you without that. And the tools you're talking about, I didn't even know you had an app. That's so fire. I hope people go check that out. That's very, very cool. And I love the necklace. I might actually have to just make that picture the teaser or the episode announcement there. That's cool. Very, very cool, man. Wow. Um, I know we scheduled a little more time, and I want to just chat a little more off air. But if anybody's listening right now and they're like, "Yo, I want some magical spells at my disposal. I want to feel more enlifted. I just want to be more around this guy and this cause, and I want to be part of the unlocking of the breath of humanity." What's the best way for somebody to connect, get involved?
Enlifted.me. That's that's our business, certifying coaches. All the info that you need is on there. All the initial info that you need is on there. The Get Enlifted podcast. It's called the Enlifted Essentials. There's 11 mini shows, you could call them. They're all under 10 minutes except for one, which is like 18 minutes. And it goes into specific language games and principles that we've talked about in a little more depth in there. That's a great place to learn more about how your words are influencing you, for better and for worse, and what to do about it. So those are layups.
The easy first steps to just get your toe in the water.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that. And for the record, everybody, that's going to be in the show notes, so don't worry. We'll put that out there. Before we go, what's some parting words of advice, the final things you'd like to share with the audience as some takeaways?
Write down your words. Write down your thoughts about things, and then get more specific. Look for the through line of your feelings and emotions about stuff, and track those things down. Specific events, title them, write them out. Write it out conversationally, details, facts, get it on paper. And that might sting a little bit, take out the might, depending on what it is. And yeah, I negation acknowledge, I'd never say this work is easy. All right. Getting those memories from in here and down there. And I'll take a little bit of sting right now, as opposed to, just a handful of decades of that stuff ping ponging around in my head and getting in my way when I try to make some moves and put myself out there and go to be seen. There's a reason why most people are afraid to be seen, and it's coming from their stories that they haven't written down.
To that effect, I mean, what would a few more decades of your life be when you feel untethered and unburdened by bullshit? Yeah. The pain, the constant agonizing, dull, and sometimes not so dull pain of the victim mentality. That, what could you do when you feel unencumbered by that? Oh my God, that's
all you need to do is turn the volume down on it. It's not get rid of it, extinguish it. I tried to do that. All you need to do, all you need to do is turn the volume so it's to go like, here it is. You can do that with your words.
Simple but not easy.
And valuable.
And I think there's also something worth saying, like, I think anybody listening to, you're worth it. You're worth the time and effort to put into unburdening yourself. That's
facts.
I want to run through a brick wall right now. I'm so fired up. I'm composing myself pretty well, but I'm amped. I'm lit up in a best possible way. Mark, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom today, man. There's a lot of beautiful little nuggets and big nuggets that I'm going to meditate on for quite some time with all of this. And I know there's a ton of value with everything you've just shared for anybody who just needs to make a small shift that will turn into a massive shift in their life. So thank you just for being you. I came in with zero expectations, but all the excitement in the world about today's conversation. And I look forward to many more. Looking forward to seeing just being friends. I consider you a friend now because I love the work you're doing, and I look forward to seeing what else we do, and just what you're talking about, helping impact educational systems and turning the dial up in a better direction for that. That's exciting to me. So thank you just for the work you're doing. The world needs more of it, and I'm happy to play my small part in supporting you and all that. So
my pleasure. Thank you for having me on, and thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you, man. And again, everybody, please go connect with the Enlifted community and level up your own communication with yourself and with others. And all that stuff, like I said, will be in the show notes. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your time and your energy. And until next time, I remind you to love everybody.